So we want to continue with probably, at least to all of us, the most exciting topic there is, artificial intelligence. But we want to talk about artificial intelligence in the context of responsible AI. So we'll dive into that as we get. But I want to introduce my four very knowledgeable individuals on stage. We have over here Andrew Hopkins, who is president of Privacy Chain, which is a distributed data management company. So he is essentially knowledgeable in data in particular. Andrew is actually formerly, in fact, he describes himself as temporarily living in Dallas for 30 years, formerly being South African. He'll join us. We've got Matt Domo here, who is the CEO of Fifth Advantage, which is a company that guides companies through digital transformation, artificial intelligence. We've got Swati Puuri, yes, who is a data privacy architect, really in the intersection of technology and society. She's worked at a large number of very important Fortune 500 companies, including a company that I will still call Twitter, but apparently it has a different name these days. And then I have Jay Basso. See, I got it right. He is CEO of Vicious. He's an expert in things like high-performance computing, artificial intelligence, and also the responsible for the Austin Forum for Technology and Society. I got it right. All right. My name is Peter Sondergaard. I run my own organization now, also advising companies, and formerly worked for a company called Gartner. We have one person missing, as you will see from here. He had a plane to catch, and since we were running a little late, he had to run. But I know Jay's going to cover topic and knowledge-wise for him. So, artificial intelligence, the hottest topic if you open a paper or look at news anywhere on electronic forums. It's not really that new. The first neural network was put in place in 1951. The term artificial intelligence was coined in 1956. Machine learning as a term and technology was described in 1959. And this has gone through boom and bust over the last number of years. However, it is important, mainly because it's not a technology. It's not a market per se. It's not like you can see that or say that there's a number of technology providers and it's one market. It is, in fact, more a capability that will redefine how society, how structures, how organizations operate. We'll talk today about really two main things. One is what's happening with the adoption by organizations of this kind of technology, because we're at this phase where people are going, okay, now I get it. What does it cost? What talent do I need? How do I manage this? What change does it impose in my organization, in my community, in society? And then we'll flip and talk about things that relate to then, should we regulate this? What in fact is ethical or responsible AI? And how do we operate in a world where this becomes important? So my first question, and I think we'll start with you, Matt, because the first question is really, what exactly is AI and generative AI? And perhaps more importantly, how is it then impacting business and society?
Okay,
that's just a very simple question for you. 2 minutes, okay?
Okay, 2 minutes or less.
Yeah.
Okay, think about this. AI is the study of making computers computationally aware enough to rival human intelligence. So in a simple form, where we hit in 2023, ChatGPT became, there's an app for that moment for AI. It simplified the way we ask questions, and the three different types of AI that are powered by ChatGPT started to aggregate information presented in a way that we asked for, and made us more productive and aware of things. And so, AI is designed to automate, to analyze, and present results based on what us as the human creators have specified. So where we are in this stage is, we were at text, video, and pictures that were generated. Now we're going to start seeing that transformation in the applications we use every day as virtual assistants that are available. So you might use Grammarly. It checks your text, but it can also make recommendations about how to make it concise, how to strike your tone. These are aids to make us more productive, more efficient, and allow us as humans to use the power of our ingenuity and our creativity to make things better.
So just to add to that, and then I'll switch also to you, Jay, but how do you react to the fact that there are many, even maybe in this audience, that would say, well, but am I going to lose my job? And ultimately, therefore, is this really a technology that's good for me?
Hey, that's a great question. With every tech disruption that we've had in our history, there's a little bit of hype and a lot of fear. And what happens is after we start adopting technologies, people start to settle in and they start to see the benefits of their organization, their business, etc. AI is not going to replace us per se. It's going to allow us to offload the mundane, offload the tedious, like think about creating spreadsheets with lots of macros to understand your finances. Let AI crunch all that and give you the results. Then the power of humans can use that information to start planning what that means to business, start planning what that means to customers, etc. So it kind of augments us.
Jay, what do you think? What is that true?
Well, yeah, in every major technology disruption, absolutely some jobs are destroyed. Other jobs are created. And so the question is, are you going to lose your job to AI? Not if you learn to use AI in your job, since most jobs are integrating AI slowly, but in 2024, I think we'll see a pickup of that. So everyone has the opportunity, now that the AIs have conversational interfaces, and that's really the big moment. Everybody in here was using AI for the last several years. You just forgot that Netflix recommendation was actually AI powered, or that Amazon shopping recommendation was AI powered. Or when you asked Siri a question, it was natural language processing that was AI powered. So AI has been permeating our lives for several years. ChatGPT isn't the boom, it's the supersonic boom on top of an AI boom that we saw for several years in what is kind of now called predictive AI. And now we're seeing generative AI, where we're building on those techniques and able to predict what comes next, predict what word comes next, predict how the image should look based on the prompt, et cetera. But the really cool thing is it's a conversational interface. So whereas people took it for granted, even when conversing with Siri or Alexa or whatnot, they're now using ChatGPT in an iterative conversational way. And that's really powerful, but it can really help you in your job as well. And it can do things, as Matt said, like synthesize, not just generate, but synthesize things. So make things better. So the short answer now is a lot of jobs will start to disappear and be done by fewer people who are using AI to do those same jobs. I don't think it'll completely eliminate as many jobs as people think, but as many types of jobs, but it will eliminate the number of people required to do certain types of jobs while creating opportunities in entirely new ways for people to have new jobs in an AI economy.
Any reaction to this, Swati, as well? I mean, from your perspective, because you operate on the practical side of this.
Yes. So when it comes to AI and the deployment of the AI, it is very context specific, like the socio-economic environment in which the AI is deployed is very relevant. For example, if I have an AI algorithm to take a decision about whether I want to hire a candidate and give them a job, or the other example is most commonly used in the financial and insurance industry, wherein we use AI based on their score ratings about whether they are eligible for a loan or not. So what I have seen is the classification of AI as whether this is a high risk activity or it's this a moderate risk and a low risk. And one thing that I'm practically working on, like right now at my workplace as well, is the enforcement of the New York Law 144 that has gone into enforcement in July of last year. It's called AEDT, which is Automated Employment Decision Tool, wherein the enforcement says that if an employer is using AI to take a hiring decision, the employer will have to disclose the fact that AI is being used in the process. And then there is a need for a bias audit, which means that there is no bias in the data that was used to train the model and also inherently in the model itself. So the bottom line I am getting to here is that when it comes to using AI, it's very context specific and also based on if it is a high risk, the harms that it could have if a wrong decision is made by the AI, and there is no human in the loop or no human intervention in the decision making, then the stakes are really high. And what I'm seeing in terms of the regulations, and for my job, I work a lot with the legal counsel and the legal team in my organization, and I get the guidance from them and I implement how to translate those legal requirements into the code in order for the organization to be compliant. And I have seen a lot of progress on the European laws and the European side, like the EU AI Act has made given a lot of concrete guidance, and then US laws they are still like catching up in terms of regulation. We had President Biden's executive order in November of last year, but then there is a lot more that we are looking for when it comes to how do we prove that there is no bias in the model, or there is no discrimination, there is fairness and accountability and things like interpretability and so on.
Excellent. Now, Andrew, we talked a little bit about this from a data perspective just before we went on stage. You believe data is important in this?
I believe firmly in the concept of garbage in, garbage out. And in the context of what you guys are describing, I am no Luddite, I'm a skeptic. And at a macro level, I think of if we're training models on the aggregation of data, by definition, we're training models on average. And so the context and the direction and the shaping of models and the source data is crucial to the success of what's going to happen, or not for that matter. I also have some concerns about we're kind of heading further and further towards groupthink using models, because we're using information and machines to tell us what the answers are. I get concerned about we're losing the ability to think differently. And I bring this up particularly in the context of what we're talking about today at Logic Day, because we need to be able to make decisions, right, to apply logic on the basis of information. And the last slide, and the last group had a slide up that talked about useful information. Well, useful information is a function of its source and its context. And I'm very concerned that we're losing control of that. And obviously we'll talk more about that, hopefully.
Yeah. I mean, Jay, you're involved in data as well. So, I mean, what do you think is the main challenge right now for organizations when it comes to data and the evolution of what AI is in their organization?
All right, I'll try to make it a short answer, but a little background.
Yeah.
As you mentioned, the term AI has been around for a while. The ideas of machine learning have been around for a while, but especially the deep learning subset of machine learning, the really powerful subset, requires vast amounts of data. So even though the concepts of neural networks have been around for decades, we've only in the last decade had enough computational power and enough data to really make these deep neural networks powerful. Well, so let's go back to a decade, 2012, 2014, right? Looking back before that, we organized all of our data in relational databases, files, hierarchical file systems, things like that, in ways that we intentionally created silos. We think of silos as bad, but they're good. You don't want your salespeople having access to the preventive maintenance database. We want to clarify whose role is what, specialize, and give people the right access to the right data, and prevent people that don't need that data or might do something wrong with that data from having access. So just as there's always going to be a good reason for some people to have certain data, there was reasons for some people not to have certain data, privacy data, things like that. The problem with AI is it benefits from more and more data. So your historical structures were set up around segregating data into the useful data methods of days gone by, like SQL queries. And now the challenge is bringing more and more of that data together for these deep neural network-based methods to find patterns that maybe even humans wouldn't find, and yet do so without exposing that data, exposing the risk, et cetera. So it's hard integrating all of the data you might want. And then furthermore, these methods are very susceptible to bad data. If you're trying to fit a straight line through some data points and somebody has a 0 for one of their XY pairs, you just throw that pair out because you know it's not supposed to be part of that fit. But now you've got to look for what is misleading data in unstructured data, text and image and things like that. And so the quality, you need vastly more data. You need to overcome the silos in places to bring it all together. You need to be able to check that data in a way that it doesn't have hidden biases in it and things like that. So it's really, really powerful, but it's bringing all these new jobs, going back to the last question, in data engineering, in data validation, and data curation.
Okay. And Matt, your reaction to this?
Yeah, okay. Let's kind of distill it in this way. You know, with the pandemic, we brought up systems because we were online 24/7. So we brought online customer service. We brought the way we communicate with customers through their delivery process, et cetera. And to Jay's points, we brought them up quickly, so they're silos. Now we all want a personalized experience. We want information to help it make us convenient. When I make my order, hey, there's these things that you also may want to do. And then as that order traverses from the time I ordered it to the time it shows up, I want it personalized. I want to know where it is. I want to know when it's going to get delivered so it's convenient for me. What does that mean? Across all those different systems, there's actually power in that data. And how we turn that into a strategic asset to provide value to our customers, create trust, create brand loyalty. And so there are challenges because the way we built it up, like a first name might be F name over here, or first name over here. And so we have to re-architect and rethink how we access that data, how we process that data, and how we build the logic to support where we're going through. And so are there challenges with that? Yes. With tuning and testing, it gets better.
Yeah, and by the way, just one additional thing. Just because we were collecting and organizing that data that way in the past because of the methods we had access to, doesn't mean we'll do it in the future. So I didn't mean to imply that the future is negative. I think the rise of AI and the desire to integrate many different types of data. Google just announced their Gemini is a fully multimodal AI engine, and they'll be releasing various features of it over the next few months. I think it's going to change the way people think about collecting, curating, and integrating that data in ways that go way beyond what we did for relational database management systems.
Yes, I would like to chime in on the data and the data privacy problem. So if anybody asks me, like, what is the data privacy problem, or what is the problem that you're trying to solve at my organization, I always tell them that in the organizations, like all of these organizations have been collecting so many data points about all these consumers through the various channels, and then there is so much of data that comes in from the various data brokers into the through the various data sharing. For example, we all like consent to sometimes saying, okay, it's okay to sell or share my personal data with the third-party vendors of the organization. So there is so much of data now in like all our engineering systems. In every places there is backups and backups of backups everywhere. So it's almost like our trash problem. If you look at it, like we have so much of trash right now, and then now we are trying to get our hands over our trash. Like what do we do with our trash? So do we like recycle it, compost it, or ship it to the moon? Like do something with this trash. We don't want to like live in the trash anymore. It's the same thing with the data privacy and the data problem as well. And it's at an odd because like Jay mentioned, we need a lot of data to train and get the accuracy of the model right. And at the same time, the data privacy is on the other end of the spectrum, wherein it says we want to value the privacy of the customer. We want to only collect what is needed and not collect more than what is needed, like the data minimization problem. And there is another problem that I would like to highlight, especially with respect to the AI, is most of the laws and regulations give a right to the customer, which is the data subject access request, which is for the customer to be able to know what data the organization has collected about the customer, and then also give them an access to forget or delete their data from the organization if that's the choice that is being given to the customer. But then now when it comes to this huge AI and ML models and the large language models, when the consumer comes back and wants to enforce their right of a data subject access request, the real problem is now we have already trained our model on their data, and now what is it that we forget about the customer after the fact that the model has been trained? Like, do we go back and delete the data from the training data set, but there is already inferred data about them, and there is already, we know a lot more things that we have put together through those quasi identifiers, and now we have built a profile about the customer. So that is the other problem that that is really when it comes to like enforcement of the data subject access request, how do we like get our hands on it? And also the solution also lies in here when it comes to collecting large data points and then training the models. One of the solutions is applying like a privacy enhancing technique, which is the data anonymization techniques, or differential privacy is another technique wherein a large amount of noise is pumped into the training data set. So there is like the privacy of the consumer is always protected, even when the models are being trained on these huge and large data sets.
So to me, it sounds like you're actually all saying that it's highly plausible that all the software we have deployed up until now may need to be redesigned. Because if you're saying that the data that we have is siloed, it's taken from information and then put into a structure that may lose some of the information. Is it such that if I'm an organization that has an accounting system, could I expect that my accounting system is obsolete because we actually go back and completely redesign based on data? Is that a wrong assumption? And let's start with you, Andrew, because we were talking about this.
Look, I don't quite know how that works. I mean, we need to change the way we think about data. And if we do, then I think there are options to do things differently. Whether that means throwing away your accounting system and doing something different, I'm not 100% sure. But let me paint the picture a different way. And let me, in the interest of talking about consumer protection, let's talk about consumers, in other words, you. How do I trust anything on the web today? Right? And you know, when the World Economic Forum says that misinformation, AI-generated misinformation, is the most dangerous factor the world faces in 2024, you kind of have to pay attention. I mean, I think that's a little bit of a stretch, but it's important. And it's incumbent upon us, right, who live in this world of technology and data, to provide you as individuals with the information that allows you to make a decision or allows you to apply logic. In other words, if you see a video on the web, we should be able to provide you with the ability to say, here's where it came from. And that is true whether it's human-generated or AI-generated. I can't tell you whether to believe it, but I can give you the information where you make your own choice and your own decisions.
I'd kind of like to chime in this way. The way to look at this is, how do we look at the power of data and present it in a way and deliver it in a way that helps us deliver value to our customers, make our employees more productive, and help us, deliver great value. As we start to model that data from those experiences, working backwards from our customer, working backwards from our employee experience, we'll take an evolutionary path. We'll start to remodel different pieces like that.
So then I'll give the word to you. So let me ask a question, and I know you can fill in on this. We all talk about the we, but if I look at an organization, a company, a public sector organization, a nonprofit, who is responsible for all of this?
That's a good one. And by the way, I agree with Matt entirely on the context of the enterprise, that if we start from the idea of value to customer and the value of employee, then we'll make a whole lot much more progress than starting from somewhere else. But I think to answer that question, and let's just go out on a limb here, shouldn't we? I own my own data. At least I should. I should have the option to decide what happens to my data. And let me just talk about it in the context of something that's very top of mind at the moment, and that's creators. I mean, lawsuits, regulation, lots of stuff going on, and people are saying, well, all this data that's been taken, to your point earlier, Swati, about all the stuff that was mine, that I published on the web, is, you've taken it up and you're using it. Why should you have the right? And so now we have lawsuits and we have politicians talking about it, but that is not the answer. We have to think about it differently. And so if I'm a creator and let's say I want to, I create a video, or I'm not a creator, by the way, I suck at this stuff, but if I'm create a video or a song or a research paper, whatever it should be, I should have the right to decide whether it is something that an LLM should have access to. And if it does, then what should it pay for it? So the idea of a microeconomy is something people are starting to talk about. And it's not about Web3, it's about the value of data. I think one thing I'll add to this is these are not new problems, right? I mean, we've known about this for a long time. Ever since Napster proved that digital scarcity is something that we can't control, then, we've been dealing with the issues of copyright infringement, plagiarism, theft, and the fact that the music industry now has a streaming model, which everybody knows is highly ineffective, but we can't find a way to change it until now. But these are not new problems. We just have to think about it in the context of AI differently.
So if they're not new problems, and we're talking about this in an ethical manner or responsible AI, why does it seem to be so hard to come up with legislation in this place?
Because legislation, by definition, it's a guideline, at best, right? I mean, there's legislation in Europe which big tech companies that shall remain nameless regularly flaunt and get fined now and again and then keep on flaunting it. And regulation doesn't really apply and the other way around, let me finish the thought, is not something that is available to me as the average small band working in Austin. I can't go and sue somebody for copyright, particularly if it's YouTube.
Oh.
So we have to find a way in the technology to make it easier for me to control and manage my own data, whether that is me as a creator or that is my healthcare data.
So Swati, do you think the regulation will catch up?
I think the regulation will catch up, but without the technological advancement. And the good news is, through a combination of some of the stuff that we're talking about in AI, but some of the ways that people are starting to think about how we store and secure and manage data, we can make a change to this. We can, in fact, shift the balance from centralized control to my ownership of my data. Matt's owning his own data.
Yeah.
And I think that's key to we need to go forward.
Yes, based on what I'm seeing is also I'm hopeful and optimistic that the regulation will catch up. But then the problem that I have seen on the data privacy side is we have various state laws that are like regulating rather than having like one federal or one centralized governing law. For example, the same thing that is akin to Europe is like the GDPR, whereas we have like multiple Texas, Colorado, Virginia, all of these states have different state laws. And I'm really hoping that when it comes to AI regulation, we do have something on a much broader umbrella rather than giving it to like every state and we having to like deal with the nitty-gritty details of how do we map these requirements for us to be compliant in the state of Colorado versus California.
But Jay, Matt, what do you think? Regulation? Will it catch up? Is it needed?
Okay, I think we have to find a balance of if we did a regulation, what are we actually trying to achieve, right? Are we trying to chase Frankenstein across the village with pitchforks? Or are we trying to say, hey, these are the things that we have to do to protect the constituents you support with your business or organization. These are the ways that you need to think about putting guardrails so you don't harm people. And start that way. Don't try to legislate and regulate control. We're all learning. We're going to figure this out. How do you put artificial constraints on something that we're all just starting to come up with? I think it's around trying to put guardance, protections, regulations of that way, and then evolve. And that's what I would like to see.
Yeah, I would point out that, capitalism has many pluses, including driving innovation. It rewards innovation. It's a really good economic system for that, but it has always needed to be balanced by people who would take advantage of that system and take shortcuts. I don't think any of you want to go eat in a restaurant tonight that the health department hasn't checked how they're doing things. You don't want to swim in a river that the Environmental Protection Agency hasn't made sure that toxins aren't being dumped into that river. You don't want to fly on a plane that the FAA hasn't forced inspections on to make sure that plane is going to be safe and get all the passengers to where they need to go. So the balance there is really important. And I think if we just step back, we can agree on that. So then the question is, can regulation keep AI safe? Again, you don't want to stop innovation. You want to encourage innovation. But you need to find guardrails for it, and that means constant vigilance around where it may be problematic. When it comes to dumping toxins in a river, that's pretty straightforward. We can educate our legislators about dumping toxins in a river. When it's something as fast-moving as technology, it becomes very, very difficult to predict just what's going to be the problem in 6 months. Not 6 years or 60 years, but 6 months. Look how ChatGPT, we're talking about it like like it's been around forever, and it's been around 13 months and 20 days or something like that. So I think it's going to always be a challenge for the regulations to keep up in technology and in very fast-moving areas, compounded by very complex areas. Addition's easy, algebra's kind of hard, AI is harder still. So we've got to find ways to have technology guardrails and legislation that we have not yet figured out. We have not solved this problem, really, of how to educate and then create the appropriately balanced legislative processes that keep up with the rapid rate of change of complex technologies.
Yeah, good. So we're running out of time. And everyone will just get a minute to sort of summarize, perhaps more specifically, where should I go as a listener to educate myself more. But before, and I'll give you the word first to you, Andrew, so you can say what you want to say. But we've been around sort of a huge topic, which is impossible in the sense of 35 minutes. But we have, I think, sort of established that really we need to be better at understanding data and manage data, because data is truly the important aspect of this. We do need, according to everybody here, regulation of some aspect, but it will always lag behind, as it always have with technology, by the way. It will lag behind the evolution and innovation of technology. And we need to think about in my personal humble view, who is it that's going to be responsible for this? We have to take a collective responsibility, but there needs to be some people that are kind of lighthouse responsible in any organization of any size and any focus. But with that, let's just hear from each of the four subject matter experts here. What do you recommend in terms of where I should go with seeking more information? But you may have an additional word you want to get in, Andrew.
Just very quickly in 30 seconds or less on the wrap-up of regulation. Yes, regulation. Will it catch up? I'm not sure. I'm going to come back to what Matt said. This is a conversation about value. And what we really have to do with the technology we have today, we have to find the value and the business cases that allow us to make the types of changes we're talking about and to effectively deploy AI in a safe and ethical manner. That's what I think it boils down to. Now, in terms of, I'm a huge fan of the Content Authenticity Initiative. You can tell where my bias lies. I'm about the authenticity and the value, therefore, of what's on the web. And those folks are doing some awesome work. So the Content Authenticity Initiative is where I suggest you go.
Yes. My final word as a wrap-up is, rather than wait for the regulation to do something, I think what all the organizations or the enterprises should actually do is treat privacy as a differentiator that makes them stand above the competition, wherein they are building this relationship of trust with the customer, and then privacy is one of the key facets in building the trust. And this should be like the mindset rather than wait for a regulation or a penalty and then think about how do we now go back and fix the privacy problem that we have. And regarding my two resources that I would like everybody to go and look at is the IAPP, which is International Association of Privacy Professionals. They have an AI governance center and an AI governance dashboard. They have really good resources on their website. And the other favorite place that I like to go is the Future of Privacy Forum. They have a very good YouTube channel and very good lectures that they stream every week. Thank you.
Jay?
And I'll just remind everybody that in the spirit of World Logic Day, we have a lot of data methods and tools. Calculators give answers, but AI methods can give decisions. They can give predictions, classifications, and judgments. And that's one of the powerful things about these machine learning techniques. And so they really can support logic if we are careful to provide the right, good, ethical, responsible guardrails. If we have good data and we train good models and then we test them against edge cases and corner cases periodically, they really can be a great foundation for good, logical, positive impact decisions. And on answer you a bit about where would you recommend going to learn more? Well, one good place actually is ChatGPT or Bard or one of those. You can ask it questions and it will teach you stuff because there's great information out there that's been trained into those models. So don't short the actual AI tools as a means of learning about AI.
Matt, quick.
Yeah, real quick. One, the future's going to be defined by all of you. And so we've painted a pretty complex, but also big picture. If you tried it, we should all come up with something like that, but don't try to eat the elephant whole. You'll choke on it and you'll fail. Pick one project, iterate it on it quickly, learn what works, what doesn't work, how do we go from here? Along the way, you'll build comfort. Along the way, you'll build confidence. And along the way, you'll figure out how to do this stuff. And so to kind of help you, in the spirit of World Logic Day, my team and I kind of came up with a checklist of how to pick something like that. And if you text AI to 33777, we'll give it to you for free.
Very cool. May the AI force be with you in whatever you do the rest of the day. Thank you to our panel members, and thank you to all of you.
Thank you.